Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be ranking every Kendrick Lamar album. Now before I actually get into the rankings, I do have to say I was very excited for this. I've always heard that Kendrick was amazing, and admittedly I've only listened to some of his songs. I haven't listened to like Section 80, Untitled, Unmastered, but I have listened to like songs off To Pimp A Butterfly, Damn, Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, and so I was very excited to actually go into all of these albums. But enough stalling, let's get into the first album, and we're gonna start off with Overly Dedicated. And now, before anybody says anything, before you go into the comments, be like, oh, this is not an album, I know it's technically a mixtape, but if you go onto Kendrick Lamar's Spotify, it is the first thing he posted. It's before Section 80, so I decided I might as well listen to it and give it a rating, and so that's what we're gonna do. Now, I do have to say, I didn't really like this album that much, and I know it's not an album, I'm just gonna keep calling it an album, so shut up about it. But I didn't really like it that much. Now, that's not me saying it was terrible or it was bad even. I think it was still good, but compared to his other albums, like To Pimp A Butterfly, Damn, Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, it's just not on that level, and even to me, it's kind of forgettable. Like, I just remembered about this. I kind of forgot about it. The songs were like good, average at worst, and a little boring, but I'm just gonna give Overly Dedicated a 7 out of 10. Now I know I did just say some bad things about it, but I still don't think it was terrible. I think it was bad for Kendrick's standards, but it was good or decent for most other rappers. Next up, and his first official album, is Section 80. Now, while I do think this is better than Overly Dedicated, I will kind of have to give the same complaints to it. I don't think it's as like boring or forgettable as Overly Dedicated, but I do think the songs aren't on par with Damn or Good Kid, M.A.A.d City and all his other albums. Even Untitled, Unmastered, I don't think it's on that level either. I still think it's good, but not really for Kendrick standards, at least to what I think Kendrick can do and what he's done recently. I don't think it's on that level, so I'm also gonna give Section 80 a 7 out of 10. And here we finally are. The next album is Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. Now, in the past 2 minutes of this video, I've probably been preaching this album like it's Jesus Christ himself. But I do have to say, as much as I really love this album, I don't think it's his best, but it is great. It's amazing even. I think there's a lot of really good songs on it, even though a lot of the songs are very long, and usually I don't really like the longer songs that much, but I still think all of the long songs, like the 10-minute songs, and even if there's longer ones on it, I can't remember right now, they're still really good, and I will gladly sit down and listen to all of it because this album is great. While I don't think it is his best album, I'm still gonna give Good Kid, M.A.A.d City a 9 out of 10. But before I move on to the next one, I do have to say my favorite song on this album is probably Real, and I just wanted to say it gets a lot of unnecessary hate because I always see people's like ranking of this album, and Real is always like the bottom of it, but I love that song. I also love Good Kid, but let's go to the next one. The next album is To Pimp A Butterfly. Now, I love this album. This is probably my favorite Kendrick album. And so just take every good thing I said about Good Kid, M.A.A.d City and like triple it, because this is like everything good about that plus 10 times better. I don't think that made any sense, but it is. I just think there's so many amazing songs on this album, and it also paints like a really good picture of what he's trying to tell. My favorite song on this album is probably I or King Kunta. I also really like Alright, Mama, The Blacker the Berry. I just really love this album. It is definitely my favorite Kendrick album, and is probably even one of my top 5 albums of all time that I've listened to. So I'm gonna give To Pimp A Butterfly a 9 out of 10. Next is Untitled, Unmastered. While I don't think this album is on level with To Pimp A Butterfly or Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, I still really like this album. I do like it more than Section 80 and Overly Dedicated, and even though this album is like around 30 minutes long, I still think most of the songs are really good, and even though there are only 8 songs on the album, I still think most of them are good. I'd say like 5 or 6 of them are really good, while the other 2 aren't even bad. They're just like good, and so I'm gonna give Untitled Unmastered an 8 out of 10 since it really did blow my expectations out of the water. I thought it was gonna be like fine. I thought it was gonna be like a 6 or even a 7 out of 10. But I still think it is really good, even though it's not a 9, it's not on the level of To Pimp A Butterfly or Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. The next album is Damn. Now, to be honest, I didn't really think this album was going to be that good. Of course, I've heard that this album is great and that it's on level with Pimp A Butterfly, but I just didn't really think it was going to be that good. Of course, I've heard like Humble, DNA, all the very popular songs, and I really like those. But I don't even really know why I thought this. I was just like, oh, it's probably not as good as like the other albums. But I do have to say this album is amazing. I really enjoy it, and I do think it's definitely on the level with Good Kid, M.A.A.d City and To Pimp A Butterfly. While it's not my favorite, it is definitely not the bottom, and it doesn't deserve anything lower than a 9, so I am gonna give Damn a 9 out of 10. The next album is the Black Panther soundtrack. Now, I didn't really think I should include this, or I didn't even think I was going to, but I was like, I might as well. I'm doing Overly Dedicated, and every video I see about the Kendrick albums, they always include this, so why not? Of course, being a Marvel fan myself, I love Black Panther, the movie. I think it's great, and the soundtrack is obviously amazing. I think it is one of the best movie soundtracks. It's definitely one of the best like superhero movie soundtracks, and it does have some really great songs like All the Stars and Pray For Me. And I understand that this is for a movie, it's not like an actual album like Damn or To Pimp A Butterfly, so there's no really overarching story of the album. It's more just songs that should fit a movie and like have good placement times for an action movie and a superhero movie. I still think it is really good. All the songs kind of fit well together. I do really like the Wakandan sounds from it because I obviously love Black Panther, and every time you see a Wakandan it makes a little sounds. I'm not gonna try and sing them here because I don't really know them by heart, but once you listen to the songs on this album, you'll hear it, and I think it's a great touch, especially because it fits the movie so well, and they're just cool to hear. Obviously, I really like Pray For Me and All the Stars, they're great, and while I don't think this album is on par with Damn, To Pimp A Butterfly, Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, I still think this album is an 8 out of 10. The next and final album at the time of this recording is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Now, before I give my thoughts on this album, I do have to say it did come out a day ago from when I'm recording this. I haven't been able to listen to it a whole bunch. I've only listened to it one time fully, but I have listened to some songs over and over again. And so far, I think this album is really good. Now, I've seen complaints being like, oh, there's no hits, there's no like songs that are very hype, and I disagree. I think there's a lot of songs on here that are potential to be really big, like hits like DNA and Humble were, and that are really good hype music. But I also don't think that was the goal of this album. This album was very much a storytelling album, and it does an amazing job at telling a story. I remember I was sitting down at school listening to this album, and then like We Cry Together came on, and I was like, should I like be here? It kind of felt like my parents were fighting in the other room or in the car, and I was just sitting in the back seat, and I'd be like, damn, this is a little awkward to be in, but I still think it's a great song. Like most of the songs on this album, I think they are really good, and I honestly don't think there is a song that is like, oh, this sucks, this is just bad. And of course, take this all with a grain of salt. It might be recency bias, it might be because I've only listened to it fully one time, but I do think all of these songs are really good. I'm going to give Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers a 9 out of 10. Now, this might change, might go down to an 8, who knows? I don't think it will, but I really do think this album is really good and one of his best. While I don't think it is his best, at least it's not my favorite, I still think this is really good, and it was definitely worth the wait. Now, before I end this video, I do want to give my take on Auntie Diaries, the song where we all know it says a very not cool word in it that I don't think anyone should say. Now, before you go in the comments, be like, oh, you don't understand the message. It actually says homophobia is stupid. Yes, I know that. Trust me. But I still don't think he should have said it. It's really bizarre how he's advocating like against homophobia while being homophobic. It's just really weird. He's also being transphobic by misgendering his uncle, which I guess he was trying to say that he used to be like this and that he's changed. But him repeatedly saying the F slur doesn't really show that he changed, and it's weird, it's complicated, it's very hypocritical. Do I think he's homophobic? No, I just think he's an idiot for saying this. I don't think this song should have been released. I think it should have been edited, and him just saying the F slur really puts me off of this song. And I don't even think the song is bad though. I was like listening to it and I actually liked it when I was listening to it for the first time, but then when he said it, I was like, oh, I just can't listen to it again because of that. But that's my take. That's popular streamer slash YouTuber Cryptic587's take. I don't think he should have said it. I understand he's not trying to be homophobic, but he just represented his message very, very poorly. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Put in the comments what you thought of this album and all the other albums, and give me another artist you want me to do. I've done Kanye and Kid Cudi, and you can find those videos in my channel. There will be a playlist of them called Music Reviews. And yeah, that's all for today's video, and thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Goodbye, everybody.